You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody.
Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. Join Steve and his guests every week as he staggers from Georgia to Maine.
Hi, and welcome back to Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis, sponsored by Trailtopia Adventure Foods. We're up to episode number 89, and you may have noticed that today I used the tagline of the show, the ultimate midlife crisis. When I set up the podcast, I wanted a tagline that was appropriate to me hiking the trail in 2014. A midlife crisis? Was that it? Well, I'm sure that many of my friends thought it was, and an equal number thought I'd soon get over it and pack it in. Well, I didn't. And despite many of the doubters, I ended up 6 months later at the top of Katahdin, kind of wondering how on earth I got there. The reason I'm mentioning this today is that this week's guest, Tom Healy, or Toasted Toad, was a fellow member of my class of 2014, and, like me, he was 61 years old, and again like me, he was on his first ever long-distance hike. Was it a midlife crisis for him? Did he ever go again? Unlike me, Tom has always been an outdoors man, and unlike me again, Tom headed for the Triple Crown. How he went about it is all part of this week's story. Tom will be along soon. In this week's If I Did It Again, Bethany Varner returns to the show. Bethany, or Snap, is a young woman who tore up the trail last year, finishing in early July. She even did the 100-mile wilderness in less than 3 days. Yes, I know. As you'd probably imagine, Bethany didn't see a lot she might change, but it was lovely to catch up with her again. Last, but certainly not least, this week we begin another new book, The Year We Seize the Day, written by last week's awesome guest, Ellie Best, and my old buddy, Colin Bowles. It is a visceral view of the Camino de Santiago that will resonate with all long-distance hikers. If you recall from last week, the book was written in 2 voices. Ellie writes a bit, then Colin chimes in. Colin writes a longer bit, and then Ellie has a say. I thought this might be a bit of a logistical nightmare, but fortunately, my sweetheart of a niece, Laura Skitt, works in a broadcasting studio, so she was able to record in better surroundings than I do. I think that she's done a great job, and I hope that you do too. You're soon going to find out as Ellie, or Laura, opens the book with Chapter 1. Make sure you stick around at the end to hear that. But before we get into all of this, here is a word about the best meal of the day. Breakfast. When I was hiking, I'd wake up to my alarm, deflate my AirPad, and contemplate my blah breakfast. Every morning I poured water into those different coloured paper bags, scrunched around the ingredients, not one of which had any association with fruit, and then eat that soulless gunk. I then find unhydrated powder and sugar in the crevices of the bag. Trailtopia's blueberry oatmeal is a bit of a novelty because it actually has real blueberries. Who'da thunk? No gunk. It tastes great, the bag design ensures complete hydration, and it really sets you up for the day. Try Trailtopia Adventure Food, the best of home cooking away from home. We've got plenty to get to, so why not just jump straight into my conversation with Tom Healy, or Toasted Toad. Listen closely to his thoughts on finishing the trail and the kind of disconnection that takes place as you and your tramily go their separate ways. That really resonated with me. Here's Tom, or Toasted if you prefer. Okay, I'd like to introduce a member of the class of 2014. I knew him as Toasted Toad. It's actually Tom Healy. Hi, Tom. How are you?
Good morning, Steve. It's great.
Well, the Toasted Toad name, it was an unusual name. Were you named before you hit the trail, or did you get named on the trail? And why?
No, I actually got named before the trail, and it's from one of my daughters, Susanna, and we were at the Mountain Toad Brewery up in Golden, Colorado.
All right.
And the name sounds one way, but I was the designated driver that day, so I'm not sure how I ended up with it.
That's right. You were toasted. You weren't allowed to drink. Terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So we were both members of the class of 2014, and we were both 61 years old. But unlike me, I know that you had surgery about a year before. What made you decide that 61 was a good age to hit a long distance hike, especially after surgery?
Well, yeah, I had open heart surgery the little over a year before that, but
Yeah.
the way I got back on the trail, I was watching The Hobbit with my at the time he was probably 4-year-old grandson, and I watched Bilbo Baggins throw that backpack on and say, "It's time for an adventure." And I turned to my grandson and said, "Well, it's time for an adventure. I think I'm gonna go hike the AT." And that was it. 6 months later, I was on the trail.
Oh my gosh, was that really your first thought of actually doing it, or had you always thought you might do it one day?
Well, what was funny is when I was going through my equipment, getting ready for the trail, I found an old Appalachian Trail diary actually started the trail when I was right out of high school, but
Oh, right.
didn't get very far. So I kept that diary and I used it on the trail again. So
Oh, how nice that is. A different perspective of age as well. So you literally was 40 odd years, 45 years after you'd first written it. That's tremendous. And funnily enough, the Hobbit and Bilbo Baggins and those things, I actually listened to the Lord of the Rings audiobook on the trail and I found it so what's the word for it? It was so it resonated so much with me from what we were doing walking ourselves through the trees. And I really thought it was a great story to listen to while you're actually hiking the AT.
yeah, I'd agree. It was funny. I didn't use or didn't listen to any audiobooks on the AT, but I did on the PCT the next year,
Right.
and they're a great way to get through the desert.
I'm sure. I'm sure there are many ways to get through the desert. Quickly is probably the best of them. What was the reaction? Well, obviously, I'm sure the reaction of your grandson was so excited. That's what you were going to do. Did it? Was he too young to know actually what that meant?
Nah, he had no idea, but he's
No,
found out through the years what it means now.
I'm sure he has. And what was the reaction of your family and your friends when you told them your plan? Because open heart surgery. I know you get better, but was there no problems with the surgery, or did you have to get sign off from a doctor?
No, no. It was funny. My regular doctor thought I was crazy, and my he says, "Well, what does the cardiologist say?" And I said, "He said he thought it was a great idea, and it's probably what I needed at the time." So, I think like you and like a lot of other people, at least older people, I left 55 pounds on that trail, and it's great.
Yeah.
Don't want it
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I got mine back with way too much interest as well, unfortunately. So what was your outdoors background? Because I know you've done quite a bit outdoors all your life, although you've never done one of these long trails. What was your, how much have you in the outside had you been all through your life?
Well, through my career and stuff, I've always worked outdoors. Started my outdoor career with the Wyoming Game and Fish, and then I switched to the U.S. Forest Service and worked on the Shoshone and Medicine Bow National Forests in Wyoming, and then the Prescott down in Arizona, and finally the Santa Fe over in New Mexico before I switched to the National Park Service. And
Uh,
then 5 years later, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife recruited me, and I did 25 more years with them. So I've worked my whole life outdoors in the wild, so I love it.
So in many ways, this was a real natural fit for you, wasn't it?
Oh yes, I finally got away from all the government stuff and actually started enjoying it more.
So you did the long hike. What was it about the change of pace that appealed to you? Was it the lifestyle, the people, or what was it about the trail that really, really got you?
Oh, I think just the simplicity of the trail, how you just away from a lot of things. You're out in nature. The Appalachian Trail is like everybody says among the three big trails. It's a little crowded at times, but you
Yeah.
meet a lot of really good people and stay friends with them, and it's just a good experience.
So did you, and you said you lost a hell of a lot of weight. Now, I know that when I told people my diet, how much fat I was eating, how much sugar I was eating, it seemed impossible I could have lost so much weight, but you burned so many darn calories. Did you find the ingestion of so much sugar being a problem for you when you returned, or were you able to keep that weight off and start eating more healthily?
Well, no, I think I went through what everybody else that does a long hike goes through. It's on the trail, you eat as much as you can, but there's no way you can pack enough calories in compared to what, when you're hiking 10, 12 hours a day. and then you get home and you're not spending that much energy. But I was lucky that I was able to cut back and do pretty good after I got off the trail.
And when you're on the trail and you start getting your legs and the rhythm of the hike, did you, even though you're eating junk food like most of us were, I guess a lot of the time, did you find, or I presume that's what you were doing, did you find that made you feel great? Because I just felt better and better the further up the trail I got.
Yeah, I think once you get over the initial sore muscle, yeah, I mean, you've done the hike, you know, there's always something sore every day you wake up, you know.
Still
But
is.
yeah, yeah, I know. But no, it's kind of like you get, oh, there's some food I won't eat on the trail ever again, and mainly because I
All
ate so much of it. And it's not that
right.
it's bad and stuff. You just get tired, and every hike I do now, I try to find something different
I'm sure.
to eat and stuff.
So what was your guilty pleasure on the AT then? What were you eating too much of on the AT?
I don't know, probably candy bars.
Oh yeah.
The AT is so different than the other trails because you can resupply so easy. So, you know, you got to carry a little bit heavier food and a little bit more junk food.
Yeah,
But you know, when you resupply at a gas station, you know what do you expect, or a convenience store? You know,
exactly.
it's not Whole Foods with nice fresh fruit.
So tell us about the journey then. You know, the people and places and events. Did you get any injuries? See any dangerous animals or any interesting animals out there?
Well, I've told people, you know, in talks and stuff about doing long distance hiking that you go through three phases. At least that's what I've read and stuff. And you know, the physical part actually, to me, you get over pretty quick. You know, a week or two in, you have your trail. What you know, we all call our trail legs and stuff.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
going to be sore. So you know, you pull a muscle here or there. I always told people, as long as you didn't get sick and you didn't get hurt, anybody can finish a long trail
Totally agree.
if you know if you can go through the mental stage, which is the hardest.
Was that tough for you?
Oh yes, I mean it was tough. It was tough for me on the AT. It was definitely a little bit tougher at times on the Pacific Crest Trail, and on the Continental Divide Trail. It definitely is tougher.
Yeah, the mental side is something that I think everybody battles with from time to time. But I think when at the end of the day, however hard a day you've had, or it's in my case, where however hard a day I had, I slip into my sleeping bag at night, and I'd always have a kind of satisfied smile on my face that it had been a good day after all, even though it had been tough out there most of the time. Did you feel that way as well?
Oh, I don't think I woke up in the morning and felt bad. You know, I might have gone to bed feeling bad, but
Yes.
you know, I had a hot meal. I got in my sleeping bag, and you know, then you just wake up the next day, and it seems better. I mean, there were times that I've sat on the side of the trail and just said, "That's it," you
All
know.
right.
But like I tell people, you can sit there and cry all you want, but nobody's going to come along and you know pick you up and carry you off the trail. So
Yeah.
the mental part's tough, but you know the hiker family that you meet and become part of, people help everybody out, and it's good. You
Yeah.
get over it, but to me, it's definitely the harder part of through hiking.
I mean, I kind of love that thing that, you're right. You sit down the side of the trail, you're exhausted, you've had enough for the day, or you've had enough, you think, that's it, I'm over. But you've got absolutely zero alternative. You've got to get up and keep moving on, haven't you? Because you're right. No one's going to come and take you off the trail. So you've got to at least make that walk to the next crossing if that's what you want to do. But this getting up, taking responsibility of yourself, getting up and getting on with it was something that really struck me. It was something I don't think I really exercised in my life before, but I certainly now realize the importance of accountability to yourself, and I learned that on the AT, I'm sure.
Yeah, and there were a group of us that were hiking on the AT at the time. Myself, Swiss Miss, Nobody,
Yeah.
and a couple other people. I can't think of their trail names right now. And we were sitting around one morning having coffee like we always do, and you know, and we made a pact. I think it was in Pennsylvania that we wouldn't quit in a bad weather. We wouldn't quit if we were in a bad mood. You know, when it was time to quit, it had to be a nice day and to the right place. And I've always kind of kept that theme when I've hiked.
I'm sure that is great advice. There's not quitting on a bad day. It's so sensible. I really think it makes all the difference in the world. But and you've already mentioned that you went onto the PCT and the CDT, but when you touched the sign at Katahdin, did you think that was it, or were you already planning for another Bilbo Baggins adventure?
Oh, no. I said, that was it. And and I got home, and I couldn't have been home for 30 days, and I was already planning my PCT hike, and out on the PCT, especially going through the desert and then the Sierras, I said, "Oh, there is no way that I am gonna hike the Continental Divide Trail." I've heard horror stories about that trail. Yeah, well, I'm hiking it.
What was that month? What was that month where you said you were never going to do it again? In fact, one of my lines in my original presentation for leaving the trail was, "I will never, ever, ever hike again." And yet, I know that's what I wanted to do as well. So, what happened in that month? Did you start looking at movies, looking at films, looking at pictures, or was it just the feeling that you were missing?
Oh, no, it was my damn hiker trash family that talked me into it.
You talked into it. Yeah, blame somebody else. Excellent
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. I talked to other people and they said, "Oh, come on, we gotta do it. We can do it, and, it'll be fun." I'm like, "Okay, let's go do it."
So you headed out in the PCT in 2015. Was that was with Swiss Miss and Nobody, was it?
No, I headed out to the PCT by myself,
All right.
and
Okay.
I met hikers that I knew from the AT, Jolly Green Giant, and some other people on the PCT. But no, Swiss Miss and Nobody and I got together to try our first attempt at the CDT last year.
All right. Okay. So what did you find? You've already mentioned the desert, and that's something I couldn't even contemplate personally. But what were the main differences between that hike and the AT? Because I'm sure there must be clear differences in your mind.
Well, I think the big difference between the three trails, if you start with the AT, you have a lot of people, resupplies pretty easy until you get up to the 100-mile wilderness.
Yeah.
And the PCT, there's a fair amount of hikers. You might go 3 or 4 days at times and not see people. On a Continental Divide Trail, you can hike weeks without seeing people,
Wow.
and that's tough. And plus, coming up through New Mexico is really the boot of New Mexico, and coming up through there, it's you're getting water out of cow tanks and cow ponds, and it's pretty tough.
I would think. Did you get the kind of same buzz or whatever it is from the PCT, or did you derive your enjoyment from the trail in sort of different ways? Is there a different feeling to each trail that you love certain parts of this one and love certain parts of that one?
I've had a lot of people ask me what trail I like better, what trail I would recommend, and they're totally different. And I also met a lot of people that said they would never hike the AT. There's no vista. You don't have the vistas that you have on the Pacific Crest Trail. The AT has this, I think, well, to a point, of a party trail and stuff, but those aren't the real through hikers. Those are people that are just getting on and off, and doing it more for a social event.
Yeah.
But I think all three trails have their own aura around them. It's just good. You just have to get out there, and I mean, you look at the motto for the Continental Divide Trails. It's embrace the brutality. So that should tell you something about the
Yeah,
trail.
it's a bit of a clue, yeah. And when we actually spoke about this the other day, you told me, because I mentioned that I'm following Dixie on the CDT this
Yeah.
year. You She saw a mountain lion recently. You saw one on the PCT. Where was that? And was it close by?
Yeah, actually, went around a corner. I still remember this because it was Easter morning, so that's probably why I remember it. Went around a corner with a friend, and it was really windy out, so you couldn't really hear anything. We went around a
Right.
corner, and the lion was standing right in the middle of the trail,
Oh, wow.
and well, and we were both older gentlemen, shall we say, and we both got next to each other and tried to make ourselves look real big, and a cat
Yeah.
just growled at us and was gone. So
Wow. What did you think? Does an encounter like that bring home to you the dangers, because I mean, it clearly is kind of dangerous. We know what happened recently in Washington State. Or did you always feel comfortable about wildlife on the trail, or do you still feel comfortable about it?
I feel comfortable. I mean, I worked my whole life in wildlife
Yeah,
management, wildlife law enforcement. I'm not that afraid of wildlife as other people might be because I've dealt with bears quite a bit and lions.
yeah,
Although lions worry me more than anything except grizzlies.
yeah,
But they're all they're it's an attack predator, so an ambush predator. So normally it attacks from up high. And since this cat was with us at the same, the same path, I wasn't super worried about it. And there were two of us together, so
yeah,
you have to be cautious and you have to be careful. But the one thing they tell you about mountain lions is, one, you don't run away from them
yeah,
because they like to chase, they're a cat. They like to chase their prey and stuff. And
yeah.
it's you just have to be careful. Same thing with snakes, you know.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I never found a real problem with snakes. I didn't like them at all. They always made me jump. But, every single time, there wasn't a single time I saw a snake that I didn't jump out my skin and
Oh,
squeal like a little girl. But that's the way it goes, I guess.
yeah. Well, on the PCT and the CDT, I did a lot more cowboy camping. Not on
Uh,
the AT, mainly because of the weather and the bugs.
yeah, yeah,
But my, Swiss Miss and Nobody, who are from Switzerland, uh,
yeah.
they didn't want a cowboy camp because they had always heard these stories about rattlesnakes, going in your sleeping bag. And I said, "Oh, that's a TV made for TV." And the first night they did it, they just loved it. They never realized how many stars were up there.
So tell us about that. That's interesting. So if you cowboy camp, say on the PCT then, and you're out in the desert or wherever you are, there's no real danger that a snake's going to come and join you in your sleeping bag?
Well, you can never say never, but I would say it's a very, very slim possibility. You have insects and stuff that might, but I've never had a problem. I really do enjoy cowboy camping, especially when it's dry out and you see. The problem is you wake up at night and you start looking at the stars, and it's tough going back to sleep.
Yeah, I actually did whitewater rafting once in the Grand Canyon for 6 days and 5 nights, and it was kind of pretty swish the whitewater rafting, and we had cots, and we'd be lying, in these cots elevated from the ground, which made it safer, obviously, looking straight up at the stars, and it was just extraordinary. They kind of close in on you, don't they?
Yes, they do. It makes you feel very small when you start seeing them all, and you don't see them, on the East Coast and around big
No,
cities because of the
yeah.
light pollution and stuff.
That's right. That's right. So, did you find that there's much of a difference between the different trails in terms of hikers? Is there a different group, or basically are the same bunch of people going from one trail to another, and they pretty much the same guys wherever you are, guys and gals wherever you are?
Oh, you meet a lot of new people, but you meet a lot of old people. People from your other hikes and stuff. People you might have
Yeah,
forgotten about or not
nice.
seen. But to me, they're kind of all. If they're doing a through hike, they're kind of the same people. They have the same visions, the same
Yeah,
wants, the same
yeah,
problems.
yeah. Nice, nice to know actually. But so you said that just now that the CDT was you could go to 3 or 4 days without seeing somebody. I'm not sure I'd like that much. Was that far less social side of things? Was that enjoyable for you? Did you enjoy that solitude, or did you go? You said you were with Swiss Miss and Nobody, so the three of you were together most of the time, were you?
We were until I got injured, and then they got injured. It's
Oh God,
the trails, the CDT. I don't know if it was just us, or I know a lot of people that it's a tough trail, and no, there's a lot less people on it. And
yeah,
there's 900 miles, I think, of the trail that's still not built. So, and versus the other two trails that are like almost single foot pass from the beginning to the end, the CDT is more like a bunch of spaghetti. There's a lot of different. There's a CDT trail, but there's so many alternatives off of it. People might go one way one day, or other people might want to go over a mountain the next day, or there's too much snow,
yeah,
so you go lower. It's
yeah.
not like the AT and the Pacific Crest Trail.
That's more kind of, I don't know. more adventurous in many ways, isn't it? It's like, hike your own hike, make your own hike up as you go along. As long as you go from south to north, you're done, aren't you? It counts
Yeah,
as a full CDT. Yeah. So
yeah.
what happened? You said you weren't able to finish. What happened when you got injured?
Well, last year the snowpack in the Rockies were like 300% above normal.
Oh,
So
geez.
the water crossings were real high, and we had selected to do what they call the lower Gila route, which follows the Gila River. But
Yeah.
I wasn't really paying a whole lot of attention. I knew we crossed it a lot. We have to cross it 120 something times. And unfortunately, right near the very end, I slipped on a rock and got my foot caught between two rocks and got pushed under by the current and stuff. And
Uh,
I ended up, tearing the interior meniscus on my right knee. I had
Ooh.
cartilage damage on the exterior side, and then I had a real bad bone bruise. But being the through hiker that through hikers are, I got off the trail. I rested for a week or two, got back on the trail, got off the trail. All summer long, I was getting on and off, and I just wasn't doing what I needed to do, which
yeah.
was resting it and getting it taken care of. So I ended up getting off the trail in northern Colorado, much to my disappointment. But a week from today, I'll be back at Rabbit Ears Pass and doing again.
So how many miles have you got to go then to finish?
I think roughly about somewhere between 14 and 1500. So
Oh, it's just a walk in the park.
it is. And it's funny because I put on my blog on trailjournals.com that I still consider myself a through hiker and not a section hiker. I
Am I
just took
right too?
I just took a lot of zeros.
A friend of mine wrote a book called 300 Zeros because he had a heart attack on the AT and came back 300 days later
Yeah.
after his. So he called that 300 Zeros. So on the assumption that you do finish this year, and hope you do, what do you think your future hiking offers you, or do you think you've reached the pinnacle of your hiking career? If you know what by career, I mean it's a hobby really more than anything else, isn't it? Or are you looking to other journeys, say abroad or anywhere else?
Well, I look at it more as a lifestyle.
Yeah,
No, yes, I'm already planning other hikes.
of course you
Uh,
are.
uh, I'm actually thinking if I get done with this, I'd like to go do the Camino for a lot of different reasons. But some of the amount of people on it and stuff, I'm thinking about doing it in the fall. And then I'm thinking about going like everybody else over to New Zealand, and I like to do the New Ireland hike that they have through Ireland. It's like 1,000K hike. So
Oh wow, nice.
no, I'm not done. I'm just done. I'll probably not do any more huge hikes like these.
So now you've done this, let's say you've done 3 long distance hikes. You've done them effectively. What do you think you've learned about yourself, or do you think you knew these things and they've been exaggerated or brought out more from these hikes?
Oh, that's kind of a tough question. I've known some of these things about myself, but it's brought out that you can live, you can handle anything that comes up if you just take your time, think about it. There's nothing that can keep you from doing what your dreams are. You just need to plan it and take it one step. Just take it one step at a time.
Literally one step at a time.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, I totally agree with you. One of the things it took me a long time to realize not the purpose of this podcast, but one of the things about this podcast, I have on people who make other people realize this is absolutely doable if you just think about it and you prepare sufficiently and you understand what you're doing and you're prepared to continue. Then pretty much anybody can do this, can't they?
Yeah. Oh, I think, I meet a lot of people that say, "Oh, I'd love to do what you do. I would love to get out there, but I can't because of this or that." And I tell people, well, I had open heart surgery the year before I through hiked the AT. And, like I said, it's mental. If you just go out there and, it's kind of a overused cliche is, hike your own hike. Don't, I know so many hikers that have tried to keep up with a group, and
Yeah,
they get hurt, and then they
yeah.
kind of just push through it instead of taking care of it because they want to stay with their new hiker friends. But you can hike with somebody on the trail for a day, a week, and then not see them for 2 months, and then go into town to resupply, and there they are,
There
you
they
know,
are.
and it's great.
It is great. It is a lovely feeling to see these people. I saw one guy 1,500 miles after I seen him previously. And it's just the kind of way it goes. I even started catching up people who were much faster than me because they were enjoying the hike so much they were slowing down deliberately because they didn't want it to be over.
Yeah, and I was after I got hurt last year, I spent the rest of the summer camping and fly fishing and helping some through hikers I knew. And
Nice.
for the 4th of July weekend, we spent in Helena, and I went out to my car, and there was a note on my car. Somebody had seen I have a AT sticker class of 2014 on my car, and the person, Peaches and Cream, she saw it and then left me a note because she had hiked. She didn't know who the hiker was, but she goes, "Oh, I was in the class," and I happened to walk out and see her after I got the note, and we talked, and we knew each other on the trail. So you just never know where you meet these people.
You really don't, do you? And it's such a, don't you think it's such an equalizer? I thought as a man in my 60s, I thought I would find it tough to talk to some of the youngsters, but they were so welcoming. And I always think it's because they had the same goal that you did, and they wanted you to succeed as much as they wanted to succeed themselves. Didn't you find that?
Oh yeah, that's part of being, your hiker family, your bubble that you hike with and stuff. And a friend of mine from the AT and the PCT, Jolly Green Giant, told me one time. He says, I never would have finished the AT if it wasn't for you. I go, why? He says, well,
Yeah.
when he got down and stuff, he said, well, if that old guy could do this hike, I damn sure can do it.
Nice to be an inspiration for being an old git, isn't it, really?
Oh yeah, uh huh.
That's fantastic. Did you ever get? I know we've talked about a lot of the show about post-trial depression. Did you ever get it down between hikes because you weren't on there? Or I know you've gone out quite a bit, but did that hit you at all ever?
It did after the AT, maybe not quite as much as other people, but we did notice when the three of us are summited Mount Katahdin together, me, Swiss Miss, Nobody, and Sierra. We
Mhm.
all went to Portsmouth and Portland, excuse me. And we were having our
Yeah.
celebration dinner, but boy, the town just seemed so noisy and so many
Yes,
people, so much,
cars.
cars and just so much, input. I tell people, when you're on the trail, when you're out there for months and months at a time, your senses change.
Yeah.
You hear different things. Your sense of smells goes way up. And it's just a great way to be.
It is, but I know that, and I can. You saying that, I'm thinking back to when I finished mine. I went back into Millinocket with my two friends that I'd hiked with, and we knew it was goodbye. We knew we wouldn't see each other for some time, if at all. It was too quick. I suddenly felt it was all they were dragged away from me, and it was over. Suddenly, there I was, sitting there having a burger by myself, waiting for my guy to come and pick me up and take me to the airport. And I thought to myself, "Oh my God, I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready for the separation from the trail." And I associated those two people with the trail. And
You
just
know,
you saying that, it just sparked in my mind. That's what I was thinking. Amazing.
yeah. Oh, yeah, I agree. It was totally, I thought, over too quick, but it was kind of funny because I had a totally different feeling when I finished the Pacific Crest Trail.
Oh, really?
Was we were real excited on the AT. We're like, of course, I did it with a group of people that I've been hiking with for a long time. When I finished the Pacific Crest Trail, I was by myself. There was nobody there, and there was no big mountain to climb. Kind of like the AT. You climb up the Katahdin and then you come back down. Those 5 miles don't count.
That's right. Yeah.
When you finish the Pacific Crest Trail, you have to hike 8 miles to the Canadian Park till you get to, we can a hostel and get a bus and stuff.
Oh,
But
right. I see.
I finished and I was like, wow, there's nobody here. So I set up my tent and I was lucky. Later that night, another hiker I knew came and stuff, and a monk from Alaska. So I at least got to hike out with somebody. But it was a totally different. And I've talked to other hikers that did the AT with the same year we did, and then the PCT the next year, and they said they kind of had the same feeling when they finished the Pacific Crest Trail. That euphoria didn't seem as built up,
No.
but it was fun.
I think we all have Katahdin in our minds, such an iconic spot, and that brown sign is just something, when you suddenly see it, is a magical moment, isn't it? Truly magical moment. I got very, very emotional when I got there. And, it's all those tough days where you were tired and you were injured and you were, I don't know, sad or whatever it was. It all went away. You touch that sign. I can still feel the signs. I touched it now. It's as I talk about it now. Now, last question I'm going to ask you, and I've asked this of one or two other hikers. When you're, I was about to say when you're old, I mean, when you're older, because I know your age, we're the same age, so it's okay. And even grayer, somewhere on a porch on a rocking chair, which one of your three hikes, these three hikes, PCT, CDT, and the AT, will you look back at with the biggest smile on your face?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. All three of them bring back different memories, different challenges, different people. One thing I haven't done yet that I want to do, and I'm going to do it next year because I'm not, at least right now, I don't have a big hike plan, is I want to go to trail days. I want to go to trail days for the AT and I want to go to the trail days for the Pacific Crest Trail and the Continental Divide Trail. And look up old friends and stuff, and people. The one thing I wish I had done on the AT and I didn't was take more pictures of the hikers I hiked with. Everybody was taking pictures, and I'm a big photographer. I spend a lot of time doing wildlife and nature photography, and I just didn't take a lot of pictures of my friends and stuff. I did some at the end, but I wish I had done that a little bit more, so I could look back on them and, but.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do then. In that case, I'm going to ask you the same question, slightly differently. If someone was only ever going to do one long distance hike in their life, which one would you suggest that they should do?
Ooh.
It's not getting any easier, is it?
I'll put a caveat on that because it depends on what kind of hike you want. But out of the three, I hate to say one's more fun, I like better, but if I only had one of the three to do, I would do the Pacific Crest Trail.
Cool. Okay. Good to know, actually. It's so interesting.
It's 500 miles longer than the AT, and it took me exactly 1 day over 5.5 months to hike the AT.
Right.
The next year, I hiked 500 miles more, and it took me exactly 1 day under 5.5 months.
Oh wow!
So I thought that was pretty funny. But I enjoyed all of them for different reasons. But the PCT was probably, if I had to say, I hate to say I have a favorite, but right now,
you just did
thinking about it.
You just did, man.
I know.
Oh dear. Okay, Tom. Well, look, it's been lovely, really lovely to catch up with you. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk us through this, and you told some really interesting stuff, and I'm really looking forward to listeners hearing this. But for now, let me know, if you're going to do another good one or a long one, or if you're going to be on the Camino later this year. I'm kind of hoping to do it myself in October. I don't know whether we might overlap somewhere or other, but just keep in touch and let me know what's going on, would you?
Oh, that sounds great. I sure will.
Okay, mate. Well, thanks very much, and I'll speak with you soon.
Okay. Safe trails.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
So, Tom's going to achieve the Triple Crown in his 60s, despite vowing never to do it again after he finished the Appalachian Trail in 2014. I recall that the stat that stood out to me was that less than 500 people over the age of 60 had ever completed a through hike of the AT. I really, really, really wanted to be part of that, as I saw it, elite group. That was something to aim at. Tom and I became one of those less than 500. I wonder how many people, though, over the age of 60 have done or are about to do the Triple Crown. Now that really is an elite group. I also thought it was interesting that he said that the PCTers regard the AT as a party trail. Yes, I saw some lively incidents, but really, I think a lot of the bad press that the AT gets from time to time is overblown nonsense on Facebook. Bad behaviour is magnified and drilled down upon as if it's the norm. I promise all of you who may be concerned on this score, you will meet some of the nicest, the kindest, the most amenable people you'll ever meet in your life on the Appalachian Trail. If you see behaviour that you don't like, just hike on and be with good people. It really is as simple as that. The last thing I wanted to add was that Tom's Instagram account is great. He has some really gorgeous shots. You can find it at Healy416. That's Thealy 416. I'm going to put a link in the show notes anyway. No reviews to read you this week. They seem to have dried up. Please put a review on iTunes if you get the chance. It really helps, believe me. We've got over 150 reviews and about 146 of them are 5 stars. So if you want to do less than 5 stars, that's fine. But put a review. I'd really appreciate it. Now, if I hit it again. This week we have Bethany Varner here with a short chat because really she loved her hike so much that there wasn't a great deal that she'd change. You cannot say fairer than that. Here's Bethany. Okay, I'd like to introduce you to Bethany Varner, or Snap. Hi Bethany, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. And I know you finished the trail last year incredibly quickly. I think it was July. It's early July, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was July 1st.
And when did you start?
When did I start? February 13th.
Oh, right. So you really did start early. That's right. Yeah. What was your weather like? Because the people who started hiking this year early on have had some terrible weather the first couple of months. What was it like when you started in February?
It was really nice. It actually wasn't as cold as everybody thought, and definitely did not have the terrible weather they have this year. I didn't hit rain until like Pennsylvania.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing! That really is amazing. Did you get any snow?
I got a little bit of snow in the Smokies and up on like Roan Mountain.
Okay. Well, look, you know what this is about? This is if I did it again. So if there were any changes you would make to your hike, what would they be?
I think the biggest change I would have made hiking would be to eat better. I wouldn't have eaten sugar 24/7, and I would have tried to send myself some more dehydrated meals.
Why is that? Did you get some sort of a sugar problem then?
I think it was just really hard to not eat like a thru hiker when I came off of the trail, and hiking now on either like day hikes or extended ones, my meals are just so much better, and I feel better hiking than I do if I were to eat an entire pizza to myself and then go try and hike out of a town that night.
Right. Yeah, I know that is a problem. There's no doubt about it. People's diets are dreadful, aren't they, really?
Yeah.
So what do? Do you dehydrate your own meals now, or do you buy these dehydrated stuff?
I didn't dehydrate any meals. I just kind of started picking things up in towns and seeing whatever I could find in grocery stores. And there was a lot of honey buns and not too many Snickers, but it was just a lot of sugar and processed foods. Never got any vegetables when I went into town. I tried, but, it's kind of your, like, cheat meal for 4 months.
Yes. Did you? I mean, I used to, towards the end, I was having 6 Snickers a day. So, I mean, talk about the sugar overload. And when I got back, I found it really difficult to stop eating. I mean, my peanut butter obsession is still with me 4 years after I left the trail. So I don't know how people cope with that. Did you find when you got back you put on weight then?
I did. I put on a little bit of weight when I got back, but not like I had before.
Do you kind of regret not taking any longer on the trail? And the reason I ask you that is that you were going so fast. It must have been difficult to make friends, partially, who could keep up with you, wasn't it?
I don't really regret going fast. I enjoyed it, actually. I like hiking fast. I kind of would get restless just sitting in towns and want to keep hiking. And I made a lot of friends when I was out there. I don't regret, like, not seeing the bubble, because I think that just would have been too many people for me.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a heck of a lot of people. From my memories, I didn't listen to it this morning, but I seem to recall you did the 100-mile wilderness in about 3 days, didn't you? Or even less than that.
Yeah, it was less than 72 hours. We went really fast. It was just miserable because of all the bugs and like the heat. I don't know. I don't regret going fast at all.
Any other things? What about gear? Would you change any of your gear, or was that pretty much the sort of stuff
I
you
think I would
needed?
change my quilt. That never kept me warm enough
Right.
when it was cold. I mean, it just had like the sides of the holes where you couldn't zip it up all the way, like a regular sleeping bag. And I feel like everybody who had those were always a little warmer than I was.
Especially going in February as well. What degree bag was it?
It was a 10-degree bag.
Oh, wow. And that was still cold?
It was still cold just because the air would get in on the sides a little bit.
Oh,
and I couldn't zip it up all the way, so my body heat was escaping.
And once you finished in July, what did you do next? I know you've moved, you told me earlier on that you've moved to Alaska now. How long ago did you move up there?
I moved up here 2 weeks ago, so I haven't been here too long.
Oh, pretty
but
nice.
I'm kind of toying with the idea of section hiking the PCT.
All right.
I don't know if I'll do the whole thing, but at least a part of it.
You in the mood for another long distance hike?
Yeah, another long distance one. I don't know if I want to do quite as long, but we'll see. You never know until you get out there, I guess.
You're right, yeah. And how do you cope with the sort of after trail life? Because a lot of people struggle with it. Did you go straight back to work, or what did you do?
Yeah, I went straight back to work as soon as I found a job, and I think that was the best thing to do, in my opinion, just so that I wasn't sitting around and like becoming bored and restless. At least I had something to go and do every day, and not just kind of wonder what's next. I knew what was coming next, and then I could plan hikes from there.
Right. And did you do anything with your YouTube channel? Because I know that was very popular.
I haven't really done anything with that. I uploaded everything that I had missed when I finished the trail, but I haven't been back on there since.
And what did you miss? You mean the places you missed, or what?
Oh no, like everything that I had missed uploading at like the halfway point, I stopped uploading to YouTube. I just videoed and then made all the videos and uploaded them afterwards.
All right. So all in all, then you were pretty happy with what you did, and you wouldn't change too much of it.
No, not too much of it. Just, the sleeping bag and the food that I ate. I would definitely take a lot more pictures than I did. And more so of the people and not just of like the views, because the views are kind of not the same, but I don't think you'll really remember each and every view when you go back and look at the pictures. You're not going to be like, oh yeah, that was on top of this mountain or that mountain. Yeah. Maybe a few here and there, but like you're definitely going to remember the people every time you see a picture of them. And I didn't take enough pictures of the people I hiked with or met in town. They're the trail angels. Funnily
enough, I thought exactly the same. I was going through some pictures the other day. I thought to myself, I'll get a bunch of pictures of people in them. And I hardly had any at all, other than the group I hiked with for the last 400 or 500 miles. And I was shocked how few pictures of people I took. And I think you're right. I think people take pictures of the views because that's what most people do. But there were very, very few pictures of people. So you had the same problem, obviously.
Well, people miss the trail, but they really miss the community more. And so it just would make more sense to take pictures of the people instead of the views.
Yeah.
More on a next hike that I did.
Yeah. Okay. All right then. Well, lovely. Well, good to talk to you. I'm glad you're settling in Alaska, about as far away. You were in Texas. you were in Texas before, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. You've got about as far away from Texas as you could possibly go. So congratulations on getting engaged as well. And hopefully we'll speak again one day.
Thank you.
All right then. Cheers, Bethany. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Taking more pictures of people seems to be a sensible thing at any time. We're all waiting for those big vistas for McAfee Knob, for Katahdin, but as Bethany said, it's the people we're going to remember forever. That's why I think that Odie's Hiker Yearbook is such a great idea, and one that really represents the people who hike. Odie does it with love and loves the trail so much that he deserves to be supported. I so wish I could have been in the 2014 book. Maybe I'll have a chance to get into the 2019 book. Now that will be really nice. I believe I know who's going to be next week's guest, but I wanted to actually record them before telling you, and that interview will take place a few hours after this episode is published. If you want to find out, you'll just have to come back and listen then. So now, let's hear from my niece Laura, who's reading Ellie Best's part in our new book reading about the Camino de Santiago. It's called The Year We Seized the Day by Ellie Best and Colin Bowles. We really hope that you love it as much as we've enjoyed recording it. I'll see you next week. Year We Seize the Day by Elizabeth Best and Colin Bowles. This book is dedicated to Al's grandfather, Bob, and to Cole's father, Joe, who both died while the book was in final edit. Two old soldiers and gentlemen, we hope we made you proud. Chapter 1.
Ellie. Shadows don't lie. I turn to find Colin on the trail. Head down in thought, he wanders along, never looking more than a few paces ahead as he goes. They say the Camino is like life. However you have lived, you will walk, and in your time here, all will be returned. In that sense, for many, the way is a penance, a succession of past karmas reflected on request. For others, it's a stepping stone, a progression towards something more beautiful than what they presently are. The first time I heard the Camino described that way, I thought the people who believed it took the business of walking far too seriously. Paul, the Canadian volunteer in Roncesvalles who issued our pilgrims' passports, Yoski and Petra, the young Swedish couple in love with the gentle nature of the way, Matthew, the young Italian student, Elizabeth, the French woman walking with her dog, all with scallop shells and all with similar views. There appears to be a connection. Those who know the history and know what it is they are here to find wear the scallop shell like an emblem of honour. The more naive among us mosey along bewildered, guided not by history or a cause, but by a cruel guidebook. For some reason I thought they were different from Col and me, as if they belonged out here and we were merely visitors to their world, house guests who arrived unannounced and stay longer than they should. I look around again at Colin ambling along and watch him kick at the dirt, occupying his mind with thoughts, then turn back to study my own shadow. Every bulb and bulge, angle, edge and line of the jagged silhouette is familiar. I've watched it now for hours and days. The peak of the cap shielding the sun from my face, the curve of my pack eclipsing each shoulder, cargoes rolled to the knee encouraging a breeze, heavy weathered boots already worn from the 120 kilometres trudged so far, and water bottle at the ready. It's taken a week, but, aware now of my solitary purpose, the urgency has finally left my feet. There are no bills to pay today, no calls to make, errands to run, traffic to battle, friends to meet or appointments to keep. But there is much work to be done, and it all revolves around the same 4 threads woven throughout every day. Food, water, health and shelter. The life of a pilgrim is a life stripped bare, reduced to the essentials and nothing more. It takes time, effort and energy to get lost in the modern world. Gazing down at my shadow, the prospect of walking back through my life frightens me. It is a journey I wouldn't wish to reverse, yet it's not one I'd particularly wish to endure again. It's becoming more obvious each day that what they say is right. The Camino is life. It's like stumbling into a scene from Alice in Wonderland and learning the rules as you go. No one really belongs out here, and that's the point. We're all visitors, all equal, all trying to reach our destination as best we can. To do and be better in some way than we were the day before. Ellie. So you want to be a pilgrim? My mother will tell you that walking a pilgrimage was something I first spoke about as a child. Not because I was particularly pious, but because I dreamed about one day being the sort of person who would. As a kid, I never knew what I wanted to do when I grew up, but knew exactly who I wanted to be. Having said that, I also imagined a pilgrimage would be something I would undertake much later in life. A journey of reflection to look back upon 50 or 60 years' worth of experiences. I'd certainly not planned on this. Colin and I met 2 years ago at a literary festival. I was invited to speak about my first book. An author of 20 years, he was there to represent one of 35 he had published internationally. Feeling somewhat out of my league among the 12 other real authors, Colin and I became friends first. Though we'd not seen a lot of each other since, we'd kept in touch via phone and email, and with time he became somewhat of a mentor within the publishing industry. He had read my work, believed in my ability, and often suggested that we should write something together. The Camino came about randomly in conversation, something I simply suggested one night over the phone. We'd need time to research, of course, I said, estimating 3 months to be long enough. And it's a bloody long way. We'd have to train for it. How about we aim for next November, I suggested. I have commitments in November, he said. How about the week after next? Are you serious? I asked, shocked. Yes, he replied calmly. Are you? I wasn't sure. It was a big decision. It had been 2 years since I'd written my book. I wanted, more than anything, to get back to writing full-time, but lacked the confidence to do so. Embarking on a project with Col felt like the perfect opportunity. A step in the right direction, encouraged by a friendly nudge. Physically, I wasn't sure I was capable of completing a 500-mile hike, not after being so ill 6 years before. The health repercussions had plagued me ever since, but I was tired of feeling fragile and I needed a challenge, both personally and professionally. The Camino de Santiago appeared to be just that, a test of faith, courage, strength, physical and mental toughness. It was perfect. With Col there for support, I was, at the very least, hopeful. And regardless of whether we actually made it or not, I expected to gain much out of taking the risk. After all, it was something I had always dreamed I'd do. If not now, when? So less than 3 weeks later, there we were in Spain, in a bus heading northeast towards the French border, on our way to Roncesvalles, the starting point of our pilgrimage along the Great Camino to Santiago de Compostela. It was at that very moment, amidst a busload of boisterous Spaniards deep in the foothills of the Pyrenees, that this naive pilgrim wannabe realised one of life's greatest ironies. Dreams seldom coincide with reality. My moment of truth had finally arrived, and I freaked out. Ellie, days like these. An hour and a half from Pamplona, and already the congested highway has become a single-lane road. As we wind into the hills, the view from my window grows more breathtaking. The purple haze of the surrounding hills turns darker shades of grey. Sweeping valleys lean deeper, and the distance between farmhouses along the roadside grows longer. We'd been told the trip would take 40 minutes. The temperature drops, fog settles on the windows, and I wonder how much further it could possibly be. The Camino Trail runs east to west along the north of Spain. There are several preceding trails entering from France, all of which converge near the small Spanish town of Roncesvalles, just west of the border. This is where Colin and I have agreed to begin our journey. Yet, ironically, the only bus to Roncesvalles leaves from the Spanish city of Pamplona, where we had arrived from Paris the previous night. Pamplona is also to be our second day's walking destination, and we now find ourselves travelling east, the opposite direction. We have scheduled just 9 hours to retrace, on foot, the terrain our bus covers in an hour and a half. And with each passing minute of remaining daylight, my concern grows. Nothing but hilltops and mountains now in every direction. Exposed cliff faces, steep shale descents. My concerns turn to fear as I realise that from this point on, Colin and I will be on our own. Anxious, I turn to my companion. Why does he look so bloody calm? Oblivious to my pending mania, he continues to gaze thoughtfully out the window. Time slips into slow motion, my vision tapers to a narrow tunnel, and my mind begins to race with disconnected thoughts. My palms grow clammy, throat jams shut, mouth is dry like a stale carpet, my teeth chatter, and the ability to breathe all but deserts me. Suddenly, all idealistic fantasies about personal challenge and achievement career into a brick wall of present reality, bringing with it a sick sense of dread that settles in the pit of my stomach like wet cement. I sit in my seat, wide-eyed and stunned with terror. What have I done? My tongue grates against the roof of my mouth like chalk on a board. I try to swallow. Colin looks across. Elle, you okay? The blood races to my cheeks like needles piercing the skin. The laughter of Spanish pilgrims behind us, joking amongst themselves, sounds like the echoed screams of an amusement park haunted house. What are they saying? There they are in their state-of-the-art hiking gear, backpacks the size of my bum bag, professional trekkers laughing at the two hapless tourists, both with backpacks the size of bar fridges. Elle, Colin repeats, what's up? I am unable to speak and simply shake my head. Well, say something. Are you homesick? Homesick? I'm not homesick. I'm angry. Furious. Whose idea was this anyway? They used to offer this pilgrimage as a substitute for jail time when sentencing hardened criminals. Who on earth with my history would walk it for fun? What insane act of lunacy has driven me here, on a bus full of singing Spaniards, with a guy I haven't seen for over a year, about to walk 800 kilometres across a country whose language I speak not a word of? I've never even been camping. No, I snap through clenched teeth. I'm not okay, okay? His eyebrows jump up his forehead like someone has just poured a drink over his pants in a bar. I turn back to face the seat in front, nostrils flaring with each deliberate breath. He drops the subject, leaving me to sort things out for myself. It is probably for the best. Later that night in Roncesvalles, I take some time alone to write and think and calm down. The bottle of red wine with dinner has helped, and although I'm still not happy about the situation, I am at least speaking coherently again. I'd suffered anxiety attacks briefly when I was young. I clearly remember the first hitting out of the blue when I was 7. It was the final day of the school year, and awaiting my school report, I had convinced myself I was about to fail. I hid under the table in a corner of the room, devising an elaborate plot to run away from home that night, once my parents were asleep. My classmates laughed as my 63-year-old teacher hitched up her skirt and lay on the floor to read my report out loud to prove I'd passed before I finally agreed to come out. My teacher told me then, as many have since, that I think too much. What a thing to say to a child! The mind is the most powerful tool we have. It dictates our entire lives. Our thoughts can make or break us. It was my own mind that almost killed me once. Now it has brought me here, to the Camino. And why? Only time will tell. I wonder what Colin makes of all this.